Beauty is the end and law of poetry. It exists to find the beauty in all things, philosophy, nature, passions, in what you will. And insofar as it rejects beauty, it destroys its own right to exist.
Those are the words of Irish poet William Butler Yeats, one of the towering literary figures of our time. The members of the First Poetry Quartet, with special guest Irene Worth, dedicate this program to William Butler Yeats, the heart of Ireland.
Well, here we are.
How beautiful.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
I called earlier about 3 rooms for tonight.
Oh, yes, Mr. Backman. That means you must be Miss Herman and you're Mr. Bevine.
What a wonderful memory.
No, just a well-kept registration book.
Well, we're very pleased to be here.
Thank you. I'm Mrs. Kenny. And before I show you to your rooms, perhaps you'd like to warm yourselves by the fire in the parlor. And I'll bring in some nice hot tea.
Oh, that'd be lovely. We've been traveling most of the day.
You're staying only a couple of days in Gord.
We hope that'll be long enough to see everything.
We want to immerse ourselves in Yeats' country.
I'd be happy to look at your maps and give you ideas on where to start and how to get to places.
Oh, wonderful.
This part of Western Ireland meant a great deal to Yeats. Come to the fire.
Oh, my, it's so cozy.
You're English, aren't you?
Yes, and that makes me the perfect person to ask about the area.
Why's that?
Because strangers to a place always end up knowing more about it than the locals.
That's true.
Well, help us plan our day tomorrow. Where should we begin?
Oh, let me see. There's so much here that Yeats wrote about. There's the tower at Ballylee where he lived when he was married. It's kept very much the way it was when he was there. And the South Galway countryside, where Yeats roamed to collect his stories about Irish mythology. But I think you should start with Coole Park. Yeats spent 2 months out of every year there for 20 years. He said he came to know the edge of the lake better than any spot on earth, and to love the house more than all other houses.
Coole Park is the estate that Lady Gregory owned, isn't it?
Yes. She threw her home open to promising young writers and gave them all the encouragement she could. It became the headquarters of the Irish literary revival. Yeats wrote many poems about her and the estate. I'm glad he wasn't here to see the grand old house when it was pulled down for the value of its stone.
Oh, my.
The grounds are still exquisite, though.
Are Yeats and Swan still there?
Well, the descendants are, I suppose.
The trees are in their autumn beauty. The woodland paths are dry. Under the October twilight, the water mirrors a still sky. Upon the brimming water among the stones are 59 swans. The 19th autumn has come upon me since I first made my count. I saw, before I had well finished, all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings. I have looked upon those brilliant creatures, and now my heart is sore. All's changed since I, hearing at twilight, the first time on this shore, the bell beat of their wings above my head, trod with a lighter tread. Unwearied still, lover by lover, they paddle in the cold, companionable streams, or climb the air. Their hearts have not grown old. Passion or conquest, wander where they will, attend upon them still. But now they drift on the still water, mysterious, beautiful. Among what rushes will they build? By what lake's edge or pool delight men's eyes. When I awake someday to find they have flown away.
Oh, I see. I don't have complete novices on my hands. Before you leave here, you'll know as much about Yeats as I do. Or almost. I do like to keep ahead of things.
Well, I don't think anyone could ever learn all there is to know about Yeats or his poetry.
Oh, it's quite simple, really, George. You just have to be fully conversant with all types of literature, philosophy, mysticism, mythology, history, religion, and theater. And then you can begin to understand Yeats, although I may have left something out.
But didn't Yeats say that the two most important things in his life were poetry and magic?
Yes, there was one other thing, though, which we can talk about while you're having your tea.
I want to go to Coole Park first thing tomorrow.
The first thing tomorrow, you'll be sitting down to a good Irish breakfast with a little touch of English thrown in for good measure.
Oh, please don't go yet. Tell us the third thing that was so important to Yeats.
Well, actually, it was a person. Yeats said that he was 23 when the trouble in his life began, because that was when he met her.
You must mean Maud Gonne.
Yes, Maud Gonne. A passionate Irish nationalist, perhaps the most influential person in his life. She frequently stayed in this inn when she was on her revolutionary trail. Quite an imposing figure. And she always traveled with dozens of birds in cages. Yeats might well have proposed to her in this very room.
He was hopelessly in love with her, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Did they marry?
No. Yeats asked her many times, but she said she had more important things than marriage to think about.
Didn't she train for the stage?
She did, in England. She was half English and had been educated there, but when she went into politics, she devoted herself to the cause of freeing Ireland from England. Yeats wanted her to give it up, but she wouldn't. Ireland was her one great love, and she was his great love.
Oh, how sad.
Oh, in a way, yes, but on the other hand, we wouldn't have poems like others, because you did not keep that deep sworn vow, have been friends of mine. Yet always when I look death in the face, when I clamber to the heights of sleep, or when I grow excited with wine, suddenly I meet your face.
She must have been a beautiful woman.
Very. That's her picture over there.
Yeats once wrote in his diary, "How much of the best that I have done and still do is but the attempt to explain myself to her. If she understood, I should lack a reason for writing."
If you were to choose one love poem that he wrote to her, which one would it be?
That's a very difficult question for me to answer.
I'll choose one. Never give all the heart, for love will hardly seem worth thinking of to passionate women if it seems certain, and they never dream that it fades out from kiss to kiss. For everything that's lovely is but a brief, dreamy, kind delight. Oh, never give the heart outright, for they, for all smooth lips can say, have given their hearts up to the play. And who could play it well enough if deaf and dumb and blind with love? He that made this knows all the cost, for he gave all his heart and lost.
Now you begin to see what an influence she had on Yeats. But I'm not going to let you ask me another question till I bring in the tea.
George, do you believe in ghosts?
It's hard not to when you're in Ireland. And I know Yeats did.
Why, Victor?
There's a peculiar feeling in this room. It's like stepping into the past. And there's something strange about this picture of Maud Gonne.
There is?
Look at it carefully. Who does it remind you of?
No. Mrs. Kenny.
There's a remarkable resemblance.
Perhaps if we all think hard enough, we could conjure up Maud Gonne. Thought creates matter, you know.
Midnight has come, and the great Christ Church bell and many a lesser bell sound through the room, and it is All Souls' Night, and 2 long glasses brimmed with muscatel bubble upon the table. A ghost may come, for it is a ghost's right. His element is so fine, being sharpened by his death, to drink from the wine breath, while our gross palates drink from the whole wine.
I wonder if Maud were here, if she'd tell us why she never married him.
Because marriage would have been such a dull affair. Poets should never marry. The world should thank me for not marrying him. But he never understood. Oh, Maud, why don't you marry me and give up this tragic struggle and live a peaceful life? I could make such a beautiful life for you among artists and writers who would understand you. Understand me. Willie, are you never tired of asking that question, I would say? You should thank the gods that I will not marry you. You would not be happy with me. And then he declared that he wasn't happy without me. But I knew him better than that. Oh, yes, you are, I said. Because you make beautiful poetry out of what you call your unhappiness. And you are happy in that. He couldn't deny it. And all I have to do to know that I was right is to read the poems he wrote about me. When you're old and grey and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. I will tell you one thing. Our friendship meant a great deal to me. It helped me often when I needed help. Needed it perhaps more than anyone ever knew. And I did love Willie. But not in that way. And besides, my heart was given to Ireland and she needed me. Willie knew how important I was to her freedom. I begged him to join me in our struggle. He did for a while, but he couldn't really commit himself to it. And I felt guilty taking so much of his time from his literary work. It sometimes seemed like using a fine Toledo blade instead of a lawyer in the spade work of political organization. And Willie said that he found the infinite triviality of politics more trying than ever. We tear each other's character in pieces for things that don't matter to anybody, he said. But they mattered very much to me. Willie knew it, and wrote a poem identifying me with the spirit of Ireland. It was the one I liked most. The old brown thorn trees break in two high over Cummins Strand. under a bitter black wind that blows from the left hand. Our courage breaks like an old tree in a black wind and dies. But we have hidden in our hearts the flame out of the eyes of Kathleen, the daughter of Houlihan. The wind has bundled up the clouds high over Knoch-na-Ray and thrown the thunder on the stones for all that Maeve can say. Angers that are like noisy clouds have set our hearts a-beat. But we have all bent low and kissed the quiet feet of Kathleen, the daughter of Houlihan. The yellow pool has overflowed high up on Clothe-na-Bear, for the wet winds are blowing out of the clinging air. Like heavy flooded waters, our bodies and our blood, but purer than a tall candle before the holy rood, is Kathleen, the daughter of Houlihan. Kathleen Houlihan. Willie Yeats wrote that play for me. I'd been trained for the stage, and I might have become a great actress. But because I loved the stage so much, I'd made the stern resolve never to act. I am a horse that has to wear blinkers to prevent being sidetracked, for I was capable of forgetting everything else. House building, evicted tenants, political prisoners, even our fight against the British Empire, all might have disappeared in the glamour of the stage. The only exception I ever made was when I played Kathleen Houlihan, and I did it because it was only on that condition that Yeats would allow us to produce the play. And I felt that play would have great importance for the national movement. And what a final speech Willie wrote for me as Kathleen, the spirit of Ireland. It is a hard service they take that helped me. Many that are red-cheeked now will be pale-cheeked. Many that have been free to walk the hills and the bogs and the rushes will be sent to walk hard streets in far countries. Many a good plan will be broken. Many that have gathered money will not stay to spend it. Many a child will be born, and there will be no father at its christening to give it a name. They that had red cheeks will have pale cheeks for my sake, and for all that they will think they are well paid. They shall be remembered forever. They shall be alive forever. They shall be speaking forever. The people shall hear them forever.
We were just saying how much you resemble Maud Gonne.
Oh, really? Oh, very flattering. You know, it's true that Yeats was devoted to Ireland, but his nationalism was literary, not chauvinistic.
But some of his plays were so strongly nationalistic, especially Kathleen Houlihan.
But Yeats would deny that. He said he never wrote a play to advocate any kind of opinion, and that such a play would be necessarily bad art. Or at any rate, a very humble kind of art.
Yes, and Yeats was only interested in pure art, not propaganda. He wrote about his home, his village, his nation, and ended up with the universe.
How did you react when the Easter Rising of 1916 broke out?
He was very despondent about the future. Many of his friends and fellow writers had been killed or executed. He felt that all the work of years had been overturned, all the effort of trying to free Irish literature from politics.
But he was able to turn his sadness into one of his finest poems.
Easter 1916. I have met them at close of day, coming with vivid faces from counter or desk among grey 18th century houses. I have passed with a nod of the head or polite meaningless words, or have lingered a while and said polite meaningless words, and thought before I had done of a mocking tale or a jibe to please a companion around the fire at the club. being certain that they and I but lived where motley is worn. All changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born.
That woman's days were spent in ignorant goodwill, her nights in argument until her voice grew shrill. What voice more sweet than hers, when young and beautiful she rode to harriers? This man had kept a school and rode our winged horse. This other, his helper and friend, was coming into his force. He might have won fame in the end, so sensitive his nature seemed, so daring and sweet his thought. This other man I had dreamed a drunken, vainglorious lout. He had done most bitter wrong to some who are near my heart. Yet I number him in the song. He too has resigned his part in the casual comedy. He too has been changed in his turn, transformed utterly. A terrible beauty is born.
Hearts with one purpose alone through summer and winter seem enchanted to a stone to trouble the living stream. The horse that comes from the road, the rider, the birds that range from cloud to tumbling cloud, minute by minute they change. A shadow of cloud on the stream changes minute by minute. A horse hoof slides on the brim, and a horse plashes within it. The long-legged moor hens dive, and hens to moorcocks call. Minute by minute they live, the stones in the midst of all.
Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, when may it suffice? That is heaven's part, our part to murmur name upon name, as a mother names her child when sleep at last has come on limbs that had run wild. What is it but nightfall? No, no, not night, but death. Was it needless death, after all? For England may keep faith for all that is done and said. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. And what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in a verse. Macdonough and MacBride and Connolly and Pierce, now and in time to be, wherever green is worn, are changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born.
What did Yeats do after the rebellion?
Well, ironically enough, Maud was in Paris when the rising broke out and wasn't allowed back into Ireland. So Yeats went to her there and proposed marriage again.
And she refused again?
Yes, but he confessed to being slightly relieved. And when he did eventually marry, it was to a woman named Georgie Hyde Lees. And he was very excited when he found out she could do automatic writing.
You mean writing under the control of a departed spirit?
Yes, as in a seance. Yeats had been interested in the supernatural from boyhood when he was collecting stories about Irish ghosts and fairies from the country people round here.
For a long time he dreamed of disappearing from everybody's sight by drifting in a boat along some slow-moving river between great trees.
But he was careful to say later, I did not believe with my intellect that you could be carried away body and soul, but I believed with my emotions, and the belief of the country people made that easy.
Where dips the rocky highland of Sleuthwood in the lake, there lies a leafy island where flapping herons wake the drowsy water rat. There we've hid our fairy vats, full of berries and of reddest stolen cherries.
Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand.
Where the wave of moonlight glosses the dim grey sands with light, Far off by furthest Rosses, we foot it all the night, weaving olden dances, mingling hands and mingling glances, till the moon has taken flight. To and fro we leap and chase the frothy bubbles, while the world is full of troubles and is anxious in its sleep.
Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy, hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand.
Away with us he's going, the solemn-eyed. He'll hear no more the lowing of the calves on the warm hillside, or the kettle on the hob sing peace into his breast, or see the brown mice bob round and round the oatmeal chest.
For he comes, the human child, to the waters and the wild, with the fairy, hand in hand, from a world more full of weeping than he can understand.
I was trying to remember. How old was Yeats when he died?
73. Although his body was weak, his mind was still full of energy. He was correcting new poems 2 days before his death.
I think some of his best poems were written as an old man. Picture and book remain. An acre of green grass for air and exercise. Now strength of body goes. Midnight. An old house where nothing stirs but a mouse. My temptation is quiet. Here at life's end, neither loose imagination nor the mill of the mind consuming its rag and bone can make the truth known. Grant me an old man's frenzy. Myself must I remake till I am Timon and Lear, or that William Blake who beat upon the wall till truth obeyed his call. A mind Michelangelo knew, that can pierce the clouds, or inspired by frenzy shake the dead in their shrouds. Forgotten else by mankind, an old man's eagle mind.
One of the places you must see is where Yeats is buried. He died in France, but his body was brought to lie in Drumcliff churchyard, not far from here. Before he died, he wrote his own epitaph. Under bare Ben Bulben's head in Drumcliff churchyard Yeats is laid. An ancestor was rector there long years ago. A church stands near. By the road an ancient cross. No marble, no conventional phrase. On limestone quarried near the spot by his command, these words are cut. Cast a cold eye on life, on death. Horsemen pass by.